Welcome to another edition of BCR Webcasting. I'm very happy to be joined today by James Vandenbergh-Harwood. James is Customer Journey Manager, Invoice Finance, ABL, and Overdraft Product at Natwest Commercial and Institutional. James, welcome. James is going to be speaking at our forthcoming UK Invoice Finance and ABL Summit, which is on the 27th and 28th of February in London, and you can see all the information about that and the program at our website, www.bcrpub.com. James, your panel at the summit is about navigating partnerships in commercial finance strategies for success with financial intermediaries. And I just got a few questions to pose to you about that. Firstly, there's a lot of turmoil and there's a lot going on in the world today in terms of the economic and trade and geopolitical influences. There's all sorts of things going on with tariffs being threatened, tariffs being imposed and then taken away, and there's your nearshoring. All this stuff is going. How is this all affecting the relationship with financial intermediaries, if at all?
So thank you, Michael. And firstly, really excited to be joining you and others at the event on the 27th, 28th. Looks fantastic. In terms of your question around, that uncertainty that is currently being felt by both businesses and lenders alike, as well as our intermediaries.
Now, sorry, James, shall we just confirm what an intermediary is? I should have said that at the beginning. So tell us what an intermediary is, very briefly.
So for me, in our business, we have a number of different types of intermediary. We have the commercial brokers who support our business and bring in new business to us, but also we have different platforms and different providers of things like technology or products that we as an organization may look to link in with. So I think there's a couple of examples of what I would see as intermediaries.
Okay, and back to the question about the geopolitical dynamism that's going on then.
Yeah, where do we start? So I think for me, look, uncertainty is a key theme, and you could argue that's been a key theme in our economy, in our world for a number of years now, and certainly businesses are increasingly resilient to those elements of uncertainty. What I would say is, globally at the moment, businesses are trying to understand what the impacts of these things are. So, you mentioned tariffs, but there are other impacts certainly closer to home in terms of our changes in taxation, changes in political party, various things that are being added in, such as inheritance tax changes and elements around farming, which we see on the news every single day. I suppose that going back to the question, the point here is it's a very complex place to be operating as a business, and whilst it doesn't necessarily change our relationships with intermediaries, what it means is our customers are becoming more and more reliant on advisors around them to be able to support their businesses and be able to navigate through this uncertainty. In a recent Deloitte CFO survey, it was said that around 45% of CFOs globally said that the current geopolitical changes and differences was the biggest element, the biggest threat to their business, only slightly increased by 55% of them saying that they were, uncertain around growth prospects across the globe. So clearly something that keeps those individuals up at night. And I think for businesses, look, there's navigation around the types of products and services that they may need to do what they need to do, whether that's growth or whether it's just to survive in this environment. And clearly, our intermediaries and the ones that we work with will support them in doing that. And more than ever, it's important that those businesses get the value for money that they need, but also the right products in their hands to navigate through. So yeah, really, really complex, I suppose, in summary, for everybody at this point in time.
Yeah. Complex and of course the element of uncertainty that seems to be about
100%.
what's going to happen in the near future. Um, what about technology? I mean, we hardly a session goes by with our conferences where technology doesn't play a major part of the discussion. In terms of collaboration with intermediaries, um, are there any particularly important tools or technology that are there and helping in terms of your relationship with intermediaries and the job they need to do and the job you need to do? Is there anything going on that is particularly transformative in this space, or any particular platforms that are really making a big difference? How important is all that?
Yeah, so I suppose if I centre first on the platform piece, there are a huge number of different platforms and different technology providers in our marketplace. Lots of choice, which I suppose is good. At this stage, I think they're all getting towards a point of maturity, and actually some fantastic offerings out there. But I don't think that there's a single tool or platform that you could rely on. I think we're moving to a state where technology needs to be more modular, maybe specialist elements making up the way that you interact with your customers, which is different to the way that we as lenders certainly would have worked in the past. So I think that's something that is absolutely changing, and most people in the marketplace are trying to work out what is that piece of technology that's going to make the real difference. I think it would be remiss of me not to talk about AI. So you don't have to go far to see either an article on AI, whether it's for the positives or the potential challenges of AI. And certainly in our marketplace, there are a plethora of opportunities to use AI. In terms of I suppose in terms of our partners and the intermediaries that we work with, you know, there's a point here about bringing technology into the organization, which is an element. But also, I think the use of technology to speed up the deal process is something that is becoming more and more prevalent. So, certainly in the invoice finance industry, used to work very slowly and be quite a long drawn out process to get a deal as a customer. Now, this is becoming more and more digital, and actually there's an expectation from a customer perspective that both any intermediaries or advisors they work with can operate in a digital way, but also that the lenders are able to do that and operate at pace. So I think we will see that continue to progress forward, which is a fantastic thing from a customer perspective. Getting an answer quicker and being able to understand what the opportunities are for them. And I think for our specific relationship with our intermediaries and brokers, it's the ability to interchange information more quickly, and again to help support getting to an answer quickly. I think most people say actually understanding whether something is a no quickly is really important, because then you can move on to what might be another option. And actually, I think this technology will help both with
Yeah.
telling customers where we can't support them, but more importantly, telling them where we can. So
Yeah.
some really big
And,
change.
and that's a feature of your relationship with intermediaries, is that the use of technology and the cooperation with intermediaries makes the decision-making process altogether faster.
Absolutely, that is absolutely where it's driving.
Yeah. And James, you mentioned AI a minute ago, and AI, the use of AI is often associated with risk assessment. Um, what do you associate? What aspect of risk do you associate with partnering with intermediaries, and is AI going to play a part in that, do you think?
Yeah, so I think that amongst all of this, there's a real consideration around data and interplay of data. So I think making sure that everybody stays within within the guidelines and the very well set out rules is extremely important. I think going one step back from that, I know that most organizations, value open and honest relationships, and actually that plays a huge part in managing those relationships, but also working with partners. You need to have that mutual respect and understand what each other are actually going to do, where your responsibilities lie. So I think that's important. Um, and also an alignment that we're trying to do the best possible thing for customers. That has to play through this. I think a lot of the work that we do is looking at ways that we can improve our our customer journeys, of course, and remove friction from those customer journeys. And we need to be aligned with our intermediaries in that. And I suppose, whilst invoice finance is an unregulated space, there's a viewpoint of, keeping in line with the spirit of regulation in a lot of cases, and ensuring that, actually we're all doing things in the right way. And it would probably be remiss of me not to mention, of course, the need for transparency, and there's been, a lot of very, highly publicized information around motor finance recently, and I think that will inevitably change the way that both financiers and intermediaries work with each other, and ensure that absolutely everything is as transparent as it can be from a customer perspective. So, certainly some elements that are changing there. I think in terms of, talked about technology, AI, there are plenty of things for us to consider there when using AI and bringing that into our journeys. And I think not being hugely risk averse, so that you don't do that stuff, but making sure that you have a really decent framework and, guidelines to implement that type of technology is very, very important, and ensuring also that it is applied consistently, and it is reliable ultimately, because if it's not, then that has an impact on a customer at the end of the day.
Fundamentally, you've got three parties involved rather than two when there's an intermediary. So, if you look at that in a holistic way, three instead of two, does that overall make it slightly more risky or less risky?
I think it could increase it can increase risk in those scenarios. So you just have to be clear on, like with anything, clear with what the potential risks are, and ensure that you're mitigating those, in the best possible way.
And I guess you need to be as careful about who you're dealing with in terms of an intermediary as you are with a client.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really important. And I think that the other element that I would suggest is, in some cases, customers will see the link between or will rightly see the link between the intermediary and the lender, and they'll see that intermediary as an extension of the lender, regardless of what name is above your door. So you're right. It means that that's really important, that I suppose we both come from a similar place from a value perspective, and goes back to that point around, being transparent, understanding what each other's roles are, very important.
Where do you see the future of the relationship between intermediaries and lenders, practitioners, financiers? I mean, we've seen a strong development in terms of the use of fintechs in these relationships over the last 10 years or so. And of course, I'm not just talking about fintechs here, but brokers, other types of intermediaries. Where do you see that role developing further, or do you see it developing further as we move forward? Do you think there's going to be even closer relationships?
Yeah, this is an area that has changed, as you've said, quite significantly, even over the last decade. And I think that there are a few things to consider here. The first is, from a relationship perspective, what I think I value is being able to look at capabilities that sit outside of the organization and understand how they may support the organization. That could be anything from a technological need through to sharing of insight and knowledge. Certainly from a broker community perspective, actually in some cases that community may have a really good idea as to what product extension you could bring in, for example, or what customers are really asking for at the front end. So I think that's useful. I think from a technology perspective, as I've said, it feels like technology is moving in more of a modular microservice type route, and the ability to plug in and plug out various elements of that technology stack seem like they're going to be important, and certainly we can see that in the types of technology providers that are prevalent. You can see that they specialize in certain elements of a journey rather than trying to do the entire thing. Some of that moving forward will be dependent on both the speed of technological change, but also the change in our customer demands. So I think we'll need to be guided by that. I also think that there's a point here around partnership. So that for large organizations and small organizations, there are things that we can do and we can offer, and there are other things that actually are not part of our offering and a marketplace. And there are some examples in my world where we partner with trade credit insurance provider, for example, to offer that to our customers, if they were to need it. And I think that partnership element could be something that expands, particularly as new different offerings come up, new needs for customers that can't necessarily be met by a lender, but are things that we know customers need. So I think that would be an interesting development of the marketplace, and you can see that in pockets, certainly.
Yeah, well, there's clearly a lot going on in this area. So I'm sure it'll be a fascinating session at the end of this month. So thank you very much, James, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you, and we'll get your fellow panelists' views on this as well. So just to remind, this is going to take place at our UK Invoice Finance and ABL Summit, which is on the 27th and 28th of February in London. And please have a look at our website at www.bcrpub.com for more information about that. James, pleasure to talk to you, and look forward to seeing you at the end of February. Thank you very much.
Thank you.